Have you ever had one of those sessions where every decision snowballs into disaster, and before you know it, the town's on fire, the villain has your escort quest, and you're in jail wondering how it all went so wrong? Yeah, this is that story. Welcome back to NaturalOne, the only channel where tactical genius meets catastrophic party decision making. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as I take you through a series of incredibly preventable mistakes that somehow managed to escalate into full-blown apocalypse. We're talking magical alarms, vampire spawn, a burning tavern, and one really unfortunate pie addiction. So grab your dice, your worst instincts, and maybe a spare mess kit. You'll see why soon. Because things are about to get comically tragic. We were playing what has been for a long time at my table considered many of our favorite campaigns, a modified Curse of Strahd, and I was your ever-patient DM. After giving them a generous level up, they had arrived at Vallaki, the last safe town in Barovia, an absolute dumpster fire of a place. But hey, it was the new home base, right? The leader, the mayor, had his own charm, if by charm you mean complete asshole, and the players, as is their usual MO, promptly ignored him. Then they met Lady Watcher. She was all smiles, promises of safety, and under-the-table deals. Oh, and a little thing about destroying the town to win Strahd's favor. Small stuff, but they didn't care about that either. Too political for their taste. They just decided not to tell the mayor about it. What's the worst that could happen? He's probably too busy being an asshole to notice. So there they were, feeling that they had finally found their footing in Vallaki, ready to take on whatever came next. Until, well, they didn't. First of all, in the most I can't believe this is happening moment of the day, the fighter decided he'd had enough of saving Barovia and left. For pies. Yeah, pies. If you know, you know. Coincidentally, the player had to leave because he forgot he had to take care of something at home. What a weird coincidence. So, while that happened, the rest of the party, still trying to keep it together, decided that the most logical course of action was to go after the bones they needed to consecrate the city. Make it safe for Irina to be there. But instead of bringing Irina along, to keep her safe, they left her at a tavern. Alone. Unprotected. Why? Well, your guess is as good as mine. They're a little unpredictable that way, but hey, at least they were on the case. Totally fine, right? Then, things took a hard turn into chaos. The bones were hidden in the coffin maker's shop, and up until this point, the party had been painfully, meticulously checking for traps. I mean, they double-checked everything. Doors, walls, floorboards, nothing escaped their paranoid scrutiny. So, naturally, they barged into the coffin shop without checking the one thing that mattered most. A door upstairs with a magical ward on it. Whoops. Oh, hold on, sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Before that, the team had failed repeatedly at breaking in. They tried every trick in the book, including some of the druid's wild shape shenanigans, to get inside without raising suspicion. But every attempt was foiled. Guards got involved, alarms were triggered, and their subtlety had gone long out the window. But eventually, they did get in. Back to the present, as they of course triggered the ward, sending an alert straight to Strahd himself. Boom. Now, Strahd knew they were here, knew they had Irina, and that's when the vampire spawn sprinted out with the bones. The party split, each chasing after a different vampire spawn through the streets of Vallaki, unsure of who had stolen the bones. They were desperate, but of course, things didn't go as planned. Of course, the one chasing the spawn who had actually had the bones was the ranger, who, shockingly, had developed a bit of a crush on Irina, and was the same character who noticed the tavern in the distance was on fire. You know, the one where they left Irina? He broke from his chase, abandoning the vampire spawn to investigate the flames. Meanwhile, the rest of the party kept up the chase, but they all had the same realization at the same time. Maybe metagaming, maybe not. Regardless, Irina was gone. Strahd had snatched her up and was riding off into the night with her on his horse. The fire raged on, but they had bigger problems now. Rather than saving the town, they kept running after the vampire lord. The ranger's heart was in the right place, but as the smoke rose, so did the consequences of their decisions. Vallaki was burning, and so was their chance to protect Irina. So, after failing to stop Strahd, losing Irina, and letting half of Vallaki catch on fire, The party gets exactly what you'd expect. Tossed in jail. Not for heroism, not for effort, just for catastrophic incompetence. You'd think they'd take this as a cue to stop, reflect, and, reassess their life choices. But no. Instead, they decided to do what any adventurer with a -1 to wisdom would do. Break out. Only this jailbreak wasn't exactly well planned. Hell, it wasn't even remotely planned. It was more like, we've been here too long, let's do something stupid. And the mayor? Oh, he was so done with them. You try to bust out of prison in his half-burned down city, and he doesn't upgrade your room. He downgrades it. And then, of course, straight into the stocks. But Lady Watcher has been waiting. Watching, if you will. So while the party rotted in the stocks, like discount scarecrows, and the townsfolk scrambled to make sense of a firebomb tavern, she made her move. The guards were disorganized, the mayor had snapped, and the adventurers had all the credibility of a soggy crouton. Her Colt struck with terrifying precision. Fires lit up the skyline, not just one or two, but the other half of the city. Her supporters and the town guard turned on their comrades. Loyalists were dragged from their homes, screams filled the night, echoing through burning alleyways. But the fighter, you ask? Where was he the whole time? Oh, he was a man on a mission. After all, he had pies to finish. So naturally, he returned at the last possible second. Good thing that the player had also conveniently returned as well. Just as Vallaki's grand finale was unfolding. After days of radio silence and presumably excellent baked goods, he strolled back into town and found the party exactly where he left them. Imprisoned, demoralized, and rapidly becoming background scenery in Vallaki's fiery finale. He got them out, somehow, details are hazy here, and the group was now in a city swarming with cultists, smoke, and screaming. By the time they joined the fight, it was pretty much over. The town was swarming with cultists, the guards were done for, and Lady Watcher's forces were cleaning up the mess the adventurers had made. So, naturally, like the heroes they were, they decided it was time to bail. But, as usual, they split up while fleeing, because who wouldn't want to make things harder in a desperate escape, right? So as they fled in separate directions, the warlock took a quick detour by the burning jail. Not to retrieve anything actually useful, he had a solid 30 seconds to choose from a smoldering pile of party gear, including the druid's staff. Literally a divine artifact. And what did he walk out with? The druid's mess kit. Brilliant! Eventually, after a myriad of events that are absolutely stories for another day, like a druidic horse chase, the ranger's long-lost half-demon brother crashing the party at the last possible second, and the warlock's brilliant plan to end the battle by turning into a halfling version of Strahd. Don't ask. Or do, it'll drive up engagement, do whatever you want. They finally met up at the gate, the last safe haven in Barovia burning brightly behind them. They stood there, staring at each other and the chaos behind them, and maybe, just maybe, for the first time, it dawned on them that perhaps they might have messed up. But they'll figure it out eventually, or maybe not. I don't know, who's counting? So, what should we learn? That maybe a little more attention to detail wouldn't hurt? That setting fire to half a town might be a bad way to spend the afternoon? That when everything goes up in smoke, you definitely want to grab anything but the mess kit? Sure, all good lessons, I would say. But in the grand scheme of things, this was the ultimate example of what most people would say is not how to play D&D. They ignored all the warnings, ditched the missions, split the party like amateurs, and left a trail of fire, chaos, and abandoned allies behind them. They got thrown in jail, let a cult rise to power, and got completely outwitted by a vampire lord. But they also made one hell of a story out of it. Look, if they just followed the rules, gone after the bones safely, saved Irina, maybe even put out the fires in time, yeah, we'd be talking about another safe by-the-book campaign. Probably about how they saved a town or something. But we don't come to D&D for safe. That's boring. We come for chaos and failure. Because sometimes failure is far more entertaining than success. Or, at least, that's what I tell myself to sleep at night. Because, dear God, they really did leave her in a tavern. Alone.